Hey internets, it's the magic word. We got Gahiji with the honored attack step. What we're going to try and do with Gahiji is pump up our creatures to as strong as possible. A lot of the creatures have activated abilities that give other attacking creatures plus X, get them stronger, and I want to stack those different abilities to make combat math difficult, because I think it'll be fun, and Moto will just do it for us anyway. So today we got Gahiji. He gives all creatures who attack our opponents +2/+0, so that's just a naturally good creature to have in the combat zone when we're attacking and want to make our attacks stronger. Then we have Kari Zev, a mono red deck, who attacks and gets a monkey attacking at the same time. Pretty cool. We have Nekusar. This guy makes you draw extra cards and does damage to you when you draw those cards. A lot of wheels come out of this deck and just do damage to everyone all at once. He's going to start off with a turn 1 Meekstone, so creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap. That's a pretty game-changing play 1, so we'll see how this game is going to work around that Meekstone. That's pretty interesting. Then we got Zedruu, who gains life and draws cards when an opponent controls cards that the Zedruu deck owns. So they like to donate things away. Usually those are nasty things. As for us, we're going to go Bloodthirsty Blade. This is a new card out of Commander 19 that lets you attach it to an opponent's creature. That creature gets +2/+0 and is goated, meaning they can only attack players who aren't you if able. Kari Zev is going to go into looks like a turn 2 sort of Feast and Famine, and that is nasty. It's a really good card. Then we got Zedruu going for a Chaos Warp Mindcrank, and that would be a pretty nasty card to have out. They get an island off that, so some form of ramp. I don't think that's what they were intending it for, but that's how it worked out. And Nekusar is going to tap all their mana for a turn pass, so they don't have anything on this turn. As you can see, the turns are kind of out of order. It goes us, then Nekusar, then Kari Zev, and then Zedruu. So it's a little bit not the way you want to look at it. Kari Zev then goes into a Rite of Raging Storm. This is an enchantment. It gives each player a 5/1 Lightning Rager token on their upkeep, and Lightning Rager can't attack you, the player who played the enchantment, as long as that enchantment is out. If they get rid of the enchantment, they can't attack you with it. And I have lost a game to my own Lightning Rager because the enchantment got purified away. Ugh. Anyway, Lightning Rager and the Rite of the Raging Storm is a really fun multiplayer card. You're not going to see it in super competitive groups, but it is pretty fun. We're all going to take turns beating up on each other here, except for the Kari Zev deck, because they're the ones who played it, so the Rager's never going to hit them. And they also get their own too. So the Zedruu and myself each took a turn hitting the Nekusar with a Lightning Rager, which makes sense. Nekusar is a pretty big threat at this table. The other commanders look not very powerful. Zedruu is blue, so that's something to worry about, but mono red and Gahiji, there's not really going to be combos coming out of those decks. There's just going to be onboard threats that blue can deal with. Nekusar played their general and then passed. Now we see a Lightning Rager with the Sword of Feast and Famine equipped, which is pretty nasty. They play Sun Droplet before combat, probably to maximize the untap effect of Sword of Feast and Famine. So when they hit someone with that sword, they're going to untap all their lands. And the player who got hit has to discard a card from their hand, which is one of the most nasty swords, especially for EDH. So now they got to untap all their lands, and they're going to play something else. This is Humble Defector, which is an interesting red card. It lets you draw 2 cards and tap it, and then you give it to an opponent. So ostensibly then they'll get to draw 2 cards on their turn and give it to another opponent. So it's kind of like a group hug in red. Then we see Zedruu getting advanced off of the Mana Crypt and the Rhystic Study, and they go for Howling Mine. And this is something that, the Nekusar player is going to appreciate because it's just going to make people draw more and take more damage. Then Zedruu goes for the Ghostly Prison, starting that Pillow Fort. And the Lightning Rager is going to attack. And it's going to swing into us. We take the 5, and we are not doing good with our land drops. As you can see, all the other players have a ton of land in play already, and we're really not getting there. So I thought we would get there with a green in our opening hand and the red, 2 lands. It's usually good enough. I play around 38 or 39 lands. But we did eventually get to the Kodama's Reach, and we don't have any extra available to pay for the Rhystic Study. So we're just going to go ahead and get some more lands because we really need it right now if we're going to ever catch up. There's a lot going on in this game, and we barely have anything. The only creature we have, we didn't even play that creature. That's just a charity creature. And I forgot to attack with it, so even worse. We have to discard due to hand size, so we discard Thalia. Although Thalia is a really good card. I really like her ability. Cheap and makes stuff come into play tapped, which is what you want to do when you're attacking. Get the blockers that the opponent's playing tapped so they can't block with it. And the opponent, Nekusar, played Consuming Aberration, which is a really big beater for a Dimir colored deck. It's equal to the number of cards in the opponent's graveyard. And then it also has the ability, whenever you play a spell, each opponent mills until they get to the land on top of their library, which it just feels itself to get even bigger. And so we have the Kari Zev going, and they have the Sun Droplet triggering on every upkeep, which is interesting. Every upkeep can gain Kari Zev 1 life back. So on a 4-player table like this, they're gaining 4 life back a turn, which isn't nothing when you have all these small damage pingers like Nekusar. Kari Zev is going to equip the Lightning Rager again with the Sword of Feast and Famine. They did draw 2 cards from their Humble Defector, and then they gave it to us. They have to tap the Humble Defector, though, so it is tapped. We can't block with it. If they did play Kuldotha Phoenix, they're going to attack with that since it does have haste. They hit with the Sword of Feast and Famine, so they get to untap all their lands, and they play Browbeat, which says an opponent can take 5 damage. If no one does, they get to draw 3 cards. And no one wants to take that 5 damage, so the red player gets to draw 3 cards for 3 mana, which is a good investment. Next, Kari Zev also plays a Howling Mine, which is interesting. I usually don't see Howling Mines in decks like these. I guess in Zedruu it makes sense because you just donate it, but was not expecting it in Kari Zev. Zedruu's turn, they play the Felwar Stone. They ponder. They're going to look for whatever card they need. And that is a Dak Faden Planeswalker. That's what they needed. And they just stole the Sword of Feast and Famine and equipped it to their own Lightning Rager. That is brutal. Because they're in a good position. They're swinging. They hit us because we can't block. No blockers. We have to discard. We take the hit, and they get to untap all their lands, which is what a control player wants to be doing. So that's good for them. Then they play Wheel of Fortune, so we have to discard all of our cards. That's annoying. Before the Wheel of Fortune goes off, the opponent is going to cast a Tutor, and it's going to go on top of their library, so they're going to draw right into it. Tons of Nekusar damage triggers go off. Everyone takes damage, except for the Nekusar, of course. But Zedruu is doing half the work for this Nekusar deck, playing Howling Mine and playing Wheel of Fortune. Interesting. And then the Zedruu plays Path to Exile on the Nekusar. So maybe that's why they wheeled. They were trying to get into removal. I'm not sure. There's a couple Howling Mine triggers, so we get to draw some extra cards. We have a Lightning Rager. We have a Humble Defector. We draw into a Pathbreaker Ibex, which is great when in combination with Gahiji. But we don't really have time for that right now. We need to get a better board presence, so we're going to have to... I think I'm going to go with the Karmic Guide so we can get something out of the graveyard. And I'm thinking that Sun Titan looks like a great choice right now. We have a full graveyard of things that we can get back with Sun Titan, and that's going to kind of allow us to jumpstart back into this game. Don't have any extra mana for the Rhystic Study, so they're going to get to draw that card. But we get our Karmic Guide back. We get our Sun Titan back. Now Sun Titan is going to get us something back, and I'm going to get a land because I want to use that Bloodthirsty Blade. That Consuming Aberration is huge right now. I don't want it swinging into us. So we'll equip the Bloodthirsty Blade to that. We're going to go into our attack step. We can't attack Zedruu because we're all tapped out and they have Ghostly Prison. But we can attack Dak Faden. So we'll get rid of him because we don't need any Planeswalkers messing this up. And we'll pass from there. Here goes the Sun Droplet trigger, gaining them a little bit of life incrementally. The Howling Mine triggers. 2 Howling Mines. Neither of them are owned by the Nekusar, which is funny. They're going to play Teferi's Puzzle Box, though. This card is kind of nasty. Can just be fun. Play it for fun in some decks. But they're going to play Notion Thief, which Notion Thief with Teferi's Puzzle Box is a no fun. Consuming Aberration is going to attack now, as well as Lightning Rager. Nekusar player tapped out, so they can't attack Zedruu. So all that 40 damage went at Kari Zev, knocked them out of the game. And we'll go ahead and block the Lightning Rager with our Sun Titan. 6/6. It's going to survive. And they're all tapped out. Teferi's Puzzle Box goes off. Notion Thief activates. Zedruu scoops because they lose their whole hand. So now it's our turn. And we can get rid of the Karmic Guide because the Meekstone is actually going to keep the Consuming Aberration in place. So that's funny that the Meekstone hasn't really done anything up until now. It's actually keeping us alive. We do Teferi's Puzzle Box trigger, and because of the Notion Thief, we lose our hand. So with no cards in hand, we're just going to go ahead and play Gahiji. And we'll attack with Sun Titan, who gets a Gahiji trigger. And he also gets his own trigger. So we're going to bring back Thalia. Because if the opponent plays a blocker, it's going to come in tapped and won't be a very good blocker. So thank you, Thalia. The opponent's going to get Teferi's Puzzle Box. They're going to play Tainted Strike first. They're going to play it on their Notion Thief. I'm not very afraid of that because we don't have any Infect, and I don't think the Nekusar deck's going to have any more Infect. You play a Psychosis Crawler. It's an artifact and a creature, and it's going to come into play tapped. And it's also not going to untap because of the Meekstone. They equip it with Lightning Greaves. And it's pretty big, but it can't attack. We're going to get our planes that we draw, and then we have to put it on the bottom. But we're just going to attack because we have a lot of creatures, and they're at 9. We're going to put Gahiji's triggers all on the field. Pump up Gahiji, pump up Sun Titan, pump up Thalia, and then we have to choose one more thing to get back with Sun Titan. Not sure exactly what we need, but just in case, going to go with the archetype of Endurance and give all our creatures first strike, and none of their creatures can have first strike. And that's it. We win out of behind. Was not expecting that, but that's the power of Sun Titan bringing stuff back. I really liked that win, and I hope you did too. If you liked the video, like and subscribe. Thank you.